Okay, right then. I suppose we better talk about this game. Spurs 1, Ipswich 2. Spurs had the chance to go third in the Premier League going into the international break. That would have been nice, wouldn't it? That would have been nice. That would have been really nice. Just talk about, what's been going well this season. Talk about why we can finish in the top four, why we can potentially push on further than that as well. Third, that's good. But wasn't to be. We were terrible against Ipswich, and we're going to talk about why. I was going to record this video yesterday, but I don't think anybody really wanted to watch it. I particularly didn't really want to make it yesterday, and I think it's probably gave me enough time to sort of really sit back, think about it, and watch the game again, and just sort of, get over it as well, right? Because I think as I've got older, I've got much better at dealing with Spurs defeats. I kind of take the emotion out of it to a large extent. But yesterday, or Sunday, sorry, really, really stung because it was so disappointing and so predictable. Really, which is something that this Spurs side is in danger of becoming and living up to this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I've been very positive about Tottenham this season because I do genuinely believe that we're going in the right direction. I do genuinely believe that the underlying numbers for the most part and the performances that we've seen for the most part are a good indicator of how good this side can be. But performances like this, performances like the one against Crystal Palace, performances like the one against Leicester as well, are also a good indicator of what is really holding this side back. Brighton second half as well. If Spurs, let's do it to just to depress ourselves, really. If Spurs obviously had won at the weekend, we would have been third in the league. If we'd have got 2 more points against Leicester, if we'd have got 3 more points against Brighton, if we got 3 points against Palace, that's 8 more points. We would have been second, 4 points behind Liverpool. And look, one thing that does show before we kind of get into the doom and gloom, if we want to sit on the positive side, which, you guys know me, I like to be there. Because again, like I said, I think we're seeing good stuff with the Spurs side, right? I think we're seeing good stuff. It's a very competitive league. There are 4 points that separate 13th and 3rd in Chelsea and Manchester United, right? But the problem is, and there are games where you can say, look, the Premier League's tough, right? Premier League's tough, so competitive. Look at City, the points they're dropping, right? Look at the points that Arsenal have dropped, etc. To Bournemouth, to Brighton, etc. Like that. It's a tough league. It is competitive, but that defeat on Sunday against Ipswich, and no disrespect to them, because I think we talked about it before the game, right? I think their position probably has been a little bit false. I think they probably should have won a game before us. I think they've been unlucky in some of the games they've had, in terms of letting in last-minute goals, etc. But this is not a game where you can turn around and say, look, these things happen in the Premier League sometimes, because it's happening way too often with Spurs. And I just think in this game we showed up with a little bit too much arrogance, really, almost in a way. And the sad thing is, I don't think we started the game that way. And look, I'm going to kind of go back to front a little bit in terms of this game. It's going to be a little bit all over the place in terms of some of the analysis. I'm not necessarily going to start from the start. I want to start with the second goal, really, because this was just an absolute joke from Spurs, quite frankly, at both ends of the pitch and in the middle third. So all over the pitch, essentially, right? So Spurs, like I said, I thought, and again, you look back to the momentum bar. We had all of the momentum in the game, which, again, did we really threaten them with that? Not really. 2 big chances, 4 big chances for Ipswich. 17 shots for Spurs, 8 shots for Ipswich. 5 saves Muric made. Vicario only made 1. We had 12 corners. But again, we did not capitalise. And Ipswich probably deservedly took the lead, I'd say, based on how organised they were and how competent they were in the final third as well when they got up there. But again, a lot of it was to do with Tottenham shooting themselves in the foot, and this is a prime example. We talked before the game about Muric playing out from the back, about why that is something Spurs could target. We've been brilliant at pressing so far this season. We set the traps well. We pick up the second ball, but that's not good enough from Spurs here to not finish off this chance. And look, people might say that that's not a clear-cut chance. It's not a big chance. It won't go down as a big chance. But with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in and around the box there, turning the ball over, and all the players that you'd want in those positions after we've won the ball back, that's a big missed opportunity. And look, I can live with that. But I can't live with kind of what happens after it, really. So they clear the ball. Amari Hutchinson, I thought was excellent for Ipswich. And look, I want to talk about Ipswich quickly just now, because they, in terms of their off the ball stuff, I thought they were great. pressed us in that front two with the Lap and Hutchinson coming off that right-hand side to play behind the Lap. I thought Ben Johnson's role in this game was incredibly underrated. Gave them a threat going forward, but also kind of meant that they could sort of go into a 5 at the back as well, and be really stable. I thought they didn't really let us play through the middle of them, and kind of forced us out wide, crosses in the box, and we just were poor. But Hutchinson there, threat on the break, lovely bit of movement to get away from Bentancur. Kulusevski can't make the challenge there, but Bentancur does what he does so often in terms of mopping up these counter-attacks. There aren't many better midfielders in the Premier League at doing what Bentancur's done there. Nips in, but no one, you circle it back here, right? Sigh and Kulusevski are here. They do make an effort to get back, but I think they're both way too passive. And in this next frame here, bear in mind, everybody can see that there is an overload developing on that right-hand side, right? And I think Bentancur has to... I think initially I was quite critical of Bentancur for diving in again at the game. I was like, why has he dived in there? It's left us massively exposed. He tried to win the ball back once. Hutchinson, like I said, I thought was excellent. Is able to hold him off. But I think he recognises that he has to dive in and maybe even commit a foul and get a yellow card, because he knows that this overlap is coming with Davis and with Schmodix down that left-hand side. And Papsar and Kulusevski kind of just leave him to it and don't back him up and don't win that second challenge. And then look what happens. Romero then goes to engage, which I'm not quite sure why he did that. I think it's again down to Sigh or Kulusevski or Bentancur. I think they're both kind of too interested in going back to defend the box. I think one of those midfielders has got to go back and sort of plug the gap on their left-hand side or right-hand side. Bear in mind that is Kulusevski's position to play over there. Romero engages. They're able to play sort of in behind us. Good ball from Davis. Romero is back in position, but Porro too passive in the defending there. And look, Dragusin will get a lot of criticism for that, but Vicario makes the initial save. In another world, it just pops out in front of him and he is able to clear it. I think they're both quite unlucky, really. I think you have to look at Porro, you have to look at Kulusevski, Sigh and Romero. I think before you even look at Vicario and Dragusin there. I know Dragusin's not had a good week, right? But for me, there's not really much he could have done. And they score, and they deserved it. But the thing is, Spurs did start well in the game, right? What I did like was the dovetailing again of Udogie and Son down this left-hand side. Again, I think you have to take the average positions with a pinch of salt a little bit here, because Sonny moved inside and kind of played in one of those left-hand-sided number 10 spots in that second half when Werner came on, who I actually thought made a difference for Spurs. Excuse me. And gave us something down that left-hand side. But again, for the most part, we see Sonny coming in off the left-hand side and Udogie sort of going around him, right? That's kind of what we've been seeing the last few weeks, and obviously the makeup on the right-hand side is different. So I think they've been dovetailing quite nicely. I do get frustrated sometimes with Udogie in those final third positions. I don't necessarily think his passing is creative enough at times, but I think he did well. I think he had an okay game on Sunday, to be honest. Gets it back to Son, and I think, look, with Son, with his qualities and his age, you want to get Sonny in as many of these positions as possible, right? Where he's able to whip that ball in from these kind of angles. And I think that's what the kind of adjustment of the balance down the left-hand side has actually done. It's allowed Son to move inside more, where he can be more deadly. And look, this is cash money on the crossing. I thought Sonny looked really sharp. Like Villa, you could just tell. Obviously, he had a really good 10 minutes in the second half against Villa, but you could tell he looked at it. I thought he did look at it, Sonny, on Sunday. And look, if we score this goal, it's a wonderful cross. And Brennan Johnson again, Brennan Johnson was getting a lot of criticism for the game. His performance in the game, a lot of people saying that obviously he didn't commit, I didn't think he committed a single dribble or complete a single dribble, an accurate cross, anything really in the game, right? But if he scores that goal, again, which is down to one of his strengths, the kind of that movement, that anticipation where to be, he's getting into these sort of high XG areas in front of the goalkeeper. He scores that. It's a totally different game. I think it opens up, and I think Spurs win it quite comfortably, right? So you have to take, excuse me, you have to take the fine margins of these kind of games into account. Obviously, when you are defending against a side that is happy to sit in the mid block and then into a low block as well and frustrate you and go into a 5 at the back and make it difficult. But you have to take those kind of chances, right? And again, what I did like about our build-up in that first sort of 15 minutes, I thought we were sharp. I thought we were good. I thought we were good. And also what I did like is something what we did see about Spurs, or something that I've kind of been calling for, is, especially against these lower block teams, being a bit more direct and playing into Solanke. Romero, lovely ball here. Excellent centre-forward play from Dom, who I thought had a really good game. I thought Dom was one of the few players that could walk off the pitch with his head held high after that. Forces a save from the goalkeeper. But this is where the first goal comes from, right? This is just, again, this is really poor from Spurs. And this is something that I highlighted on the thumbnail. I focused on the first goal and I want to talk about it now. So Too easy to play through Tottenham here, not engaging enough. Morsey into Cajuste, who, keep an eye on Cajuste, right? So he's played the ball into Delap there, and he's run off of Sarr and Bentancur. Cajuste, Liam Delap gets past Son. Son doesn't even attempt to put a challenge in. Again, Ange Postecoglou spoke. And look, I think Ange has to take responsibility for this game. Of course he does. He's the manager. And I think after the Brighton game, we spoke about the fact that that defeat for me was mainly on the players, down to how we capitulated. I think it was a complete abandonment in the second half of the way that he wanted to play, not pressing, etc. I think after Palace, I think it was a shared kind of blame, really, between Ange's sort of subs. But again, the players not really being at it. Those kind of games, we don't like to play under pressure when there's an opportunity for us to do something, which is just a massive frustration. And again, Ange in that Palace game, he spoke about winning those duels. Son, no attempt to win the ball there. Not even to foul him, not even to break up the play, disrupt it. Too passive. Again, Cajuste has made that run all the way across. Hutchinson's in that central position there. It comes out to Ben Johnson, who I thought, had a good game. One thing I don't like about this is look at where the defenders are. So Porro, Udogie and Romero are defending kind of centre-back zones. Dragusin has been dragged all the way out here. You need Dragusin in the box when balls are coming in as your best box defender, right? Or maybe him and Romero. And how are we allowing this much time for the ball to get played back for Cajuste, who has just moved all the way, untracked, from popping that ball off to the lap, into this position where he's able to put his foot on the ball and cross? How is that happening? Balls into the box is something that Spurs have really not been able to deal with this season, right? And again, someone did a great thread about kind of breaking down like I think 13 league goals we conceded this season, right? How many of them are on Ange? How many of them are on players? And I think a lot of the time it is down to individual mistakes and players not taking enough responsibility in certain situations. But there is something wrong with your defensive setup if your left or your centre-back is kind of being dragged all the way out there, and your centre-backs and your full-backs are the ones kind of in those centre-back positions to defend the box, right? Way too much time for Cajuste to get the cross in. Not enough pressure on the ball to stop it from Dragusin or Son. Mainly on Son, to be honest. Mainly from Son. We win the first header, but Schmodix, look, it's a great goal. It is a great goal. And Johnson doesn't do enough there either. But there is a real trend emerging with some of the goals that Spurs are conceding, right? Overload at the back post. Overload at the back post. We all get sucked in, get beat down the left-hand side, and the ball comes into the box. Similar again here, although it's quite different. But again, overload at the back post. This one came from us giving the ball away, so I don't think it's quite the same. But these sort of goals are becoming a real sort of problem for Spurs with our centre-backs and fullbacks kind of being dragged all over the place, leaving too much space for players in the box. And it's just something that just drastically has to improve. I just almost feel, it almost just feels like these players just don't like defending. You know, the organisation is poor. And again, I think that comes from a lack of leadership and a lack of mentality. I do. Too soft. I think Romero got bullied all game by Liam Delap. Look, Liam Delap was excellent. And again, talk about Ipswich's pressing. I will actually come to this. I won't just completely nick his work, but Daniel iScouting did a really good thread on Ipswich's press in that game and how they were able to kind of hurt Tottenham and then sit back into the mid-block and then in a low block kind of going into a five at the back. So go and read that thread. I'm not going to just nick it and use it for this, but it's really good, and Ipswich deserve a lot of credit for that. McKenna is a really good coach. But the problem is as well is that these situations where you go 1-0 down, which has been a feature of Spurs, and look, we've gained, I think, more points from losing positions than any other team in the Premier League over the last calendar year by quite some way, or since 2024. But the problem is we're going 1-0 down and kind of relying on yourselves to come back into it. You're going to go 2-0 down, and then it's significantly harder. I know that sounds obviously very basic, but we need to stop getting ourselves into these kind of positions. And look, in a different game, like I said, you go back to this, you go 1-0 up for that chance, you go 1-0 up from that chance, and then it's different, and the game completely opens up. The game becomes more transitional. Spurs pick you off, bing, bang, boom. It's an easy win for Spurs. And I genuinely think that's probably what would have happened, despite the fact that Ipswich hurt us. And the fact that they were brave, I think even at 0-0 suggests that there would have been a lot more space that would have opened up if we'd have got that first goal. I don't think it would have been a case of them hanging in there. I think they would have probably had to come out a little bit. And I think the confidence on top of that, I think we would have gone on and win the game. So again, fine margins have to come into it, right? So I don't think it necessarily warrants the overreaction that has kind of happened after the game. Although Spurs fans are fully entitled to feel how they feel about this. I was angry. I was fuming after this because it just felt like such a big missed opportunity. And again, Talk about missed opportunities. Again, we spoke about before the game, giving the ball away. Spurs win the ball back high up the pitch. Slack pass, slack touch from Son. Nothing comes into it. 2-0 down into the second half. Look, the game didn't open up and it wasn't transitional, and that's obviously where Spurs have, or for the most part anyway, and that's where Spurs obviously thrived this season, and I think Solanke has been a massive cheat code for that. And what Solanke does allow is that even in split moments, because of his ability to win duels and hold off those defenders, and Spurs are able to play out quickly, you can make the game a little bit more transitional and open, because he'll win those duels more often than not and then get away. And there's quality of passing to Johnson. This really frustrated me, this opportunity, because Brennan Johnson was ineffective in the game because there wasn't space in behind. The one opportunity that he kind of does get with a space in behind, it's just terrible decision making. Should play the pass super early to Son because he's onside. Waits. Muric anticipates that the cross is going to come in, and this is something that Spurs did all second half. All second half Spurs did this, where we would just float balls into Muric. They got big defence, they got big goalkeeper. Float balls into the box. It was like catching practice for them. And again, it was like that for Johnson here. And look, I stuck up for Johnson after the Newcastle game, after there was these kind of accusations a little bit of him struggle, kind of being overcoached, and this kind of reliance on just don't get your head up, just kind of fizz the ball in straight away. There'll be someone there, the pitch geography, the lines don't move, etc. Which I think is still really true to an extent. You have to have those patterns, but here he's got to make that decision earlier. And also, I thought back to Antoine Griezmann. If he gets his head up there, he's actually got a shot goal. Muric has kind of committed a long way, right? And we just wasted the opportunities that we did get. It was just crazy from Tottenham. Again, I thought Werner actually came on and made a difference. And again, when the game did become a little bit more transitional, we were able to pick them off and kind of get chances, but it was the finishing. And this is where I come back to the summer window. Werner being your main man to come off the bench and change things. And look, I know we've got injuries, but the quality of finishing is just not there. I thought he did quite well other than that, to be honest. I think, again, this is a game where you take Johnson off at 45 minutes or 50 minutes and don't even start him, and play Wilson Odobert, someone that is more patient to sort of commit men and kind of help you unpick a low block. Johnson, like I said, the one chance we kind of did get, we got space in behind, or the two opportunities with the chance he had early in the game, he just didn't make the most of them. And Werner's obviously finishing let us down in that one, but we just didn't we didn't deserve anything out of the game at all. And this is where I want to come to Ange, because when Ipswich were kind of as organised as they were in that low block, you need a creator to come off the bench, right? You need James Maddison on that pitch, and I was flabbergasted the fact that he didn't come on earlier. I kind of called for him to start. I didn't think we really needed Sigh necessarily in that game, but I think as the game went on, Sigh was the only one that was kind of getting in and winning that ball back for us, as he so often does. He's so important. So maybe take Johnson off, put Kulusevski on that right wing, because if we are going to kind of float balls in, and look, I'm not using Johnson here as an example, but I haven't really got any other screenshots to illustrate it. When Ipswich are kind of sat in a low block, I think it'd be better to have those angles of those kind of crosses coming in with a left footer from Kulusevski, because one is quality of crossing is better. You're not just kind of like whipping crosses out for him to just run out and collect like it's catching practice. And then you've got Maddison on with Kulusevski to kind of unpick the lock, and you can play the game in their half, and you don't have to just try and pick them off on the counter-attack when those opportunities did come. We weren't creative enough when they were just sat comfortably deep in a low block, and that was why I was confused as to why Maddison didn't come on, and I wonder if something's happened there. I don't know. It felt very strange to bring Maddison on with 5 minutes to go, if I'm being honest. Because I don't think Kulusevski was affecting the game, because they weren't really allowing us to play through the middle, which is something that obviously we want to do with Solanke, with Kulu, etc. They found it odd, found it bizarre. But like I said, the good news for Spurs is that it's not doom and gloom. It's not all over. You know, Spurs are still only 3 points away from third. But this inconsistency in terms of results has to change. It has to change. If you look at the bigger picture and zoom out, we're winning more than we're losing. But those losses are really setting us back. Like Brighton should have won that game. Palace, we were not good enough. Ipswich were not good enough. Leicester, we should have won that game. Like I said, we would be second if we'd have beaten Brighton, Leicester, Ipswich and Palace. And look, if buts maybes, you're going to lose games. Spurs aren't Liverpool. They're not Man City, right? I mean, City lost 4 in a row, but if you're kind of judging Man City off what they have been, we're not going to be that consistent. Consistency takes time, and Ange Postecoglou needs to be backed 100%. And although I think he has to take responsibility for that game as well as the players, I think these players need to do some real soul searching and look at themselves in the mirror over the next 2 weeks in the international break, because it's not good enough. The inconsistency is not good enough, and that is on them as much as it is Ange. And it's also their frustrations with the summer window, I think, were really apparent after that game as well, especially when Pedro Neto went and scored that worldy goal against Arsenal. We just don't have those kind of game changes, and that's where I think Levy has let Ange down. And again, I was quite positive about the summer window in the summer because I really like the profile of player that we're bringing in. And I felt that Bergvall and Gray and those kind of players were ready to make an impact. And I think Archie Gray is. I don't think Bergvall is. Wilson Odebear's obviously been unlucky with injuries. I don't think Timo Werner's been as bad as people have maybe made out, although he's let us down and frustrated me in moments, of course, obviously. But I think that game was just a real compiling of everyone's frustrations kind of coming together, whether it's at the board, at the manager, at the players. I think it all sort of met in the middle on Sunday. Maybe as it hasn't with some of the other defeats, where it's just like Brighton, I think, was very straightforward. Players just completely let the manager down there. Leicester, again, first game of the season. I think the players just kind of let the manager down as well to an extent. Is Ange doing enough to adapt to these in-game situations? Probably not. For me at the moment, probably not. But I'll still stick by him. I'll stick by him because I think that this way of playing is going to get us somewhere. I do think it's going to get us somewhere. He needs the tools, he needs the players, and he needs the players to buy in and commit to him. And I'm not sure he's getting that at the moment, which is super frustrating. But that's where I'm going to leave it today. I'll have a think about what content's going to come over the international break. I think we can kind of deep dive into this a little bit more if you guys want to. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Go and subscribe. Go and like it. Go and subscribe to Darren and Doing as well, my podcast. We're trying to get that to 1,000 subscribers. And yeah, up the Spurs. We'll be all right. We'll beat City, won't we? I don't know. All the best. Nice one.